Today, we're going to study about solving problems involving inverse proportion in different contexts, such as distance, rate, and time, using appropriate strategies and tools. In this lesson, you are expected to solve problems involving inverse proportion in different contexts, such as distance, rate, and time, using appropriate strategies and tools. Let's start with this activity that I prepared for you. Please write your answer in your math notebook. Directions: choose the correct answer. Number 1. If 9 men can paint the wall in 3 hours, how many men can do the same job in 2 hours? As the number of hours decreases, the number of men to do the job blank decreases or increases. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is increases. Number 2. The food for 5 men will last for 15 weeks. How long will the food last for 10 men? As the number of men increases, the number of weeks the food will last blank decreases or increases. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is decreases. Let's take problem number 3. If 10 pupils can decorate a hall for a program in 3.5 hours, how long will it take 7 pupils to decorate it? 5 hours or 7 hours? Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is 5 hours. Problem number 4. It took 5 days for a committee of 8 pupils to clean the auditorium for a school program. How many days would it have taken a committee of 10 pupils to do the same work? 5 days or 4 days? Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is 4 days. Number 5. In a summer camp, there are enough food provisions to feed 40 pupils for 6 weeks. If 60 pupils came to the camp, for how many weeks would the food last? 4 weeks or 5 weeks? Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is 4 weeks. Let us have a review of our past lesson. What is a partitive proportion? How do we solve problems involving partitive proportion? A partitive proportion is a proportion wherein the whole quantity is divided into parts that is proportional to the given ratio. To solve problems involving partitive proportion, use the 4-step plan in solving problems. Understand the problem, make a plan, solve and look back or evaluate. The following are the steps in solving the missing number in a partitive proportion. First, set up the proportion, then add the terms in the ratio, divide the whole quantity by the sum, then multiply the quotient to each term in the given ratio. Read the problem and solve. The ratio of the angles of a triangle is 3:4:5. Find the measure of each angle. To solve the problem, let us take the given ratio 3:4:5 and 180. Where did we get 180? Yes, it is the sum of the 3 angles in a triangle. Then let n be the missing number. So the equation now is 3n:4n:5n equals 180. To find the value of n, first, add the terms in the ratio. So 3n plus 4n plus 5n equals to 9n, which is equal to 180. Then divide both sides of the equation by the numerical coefficient. 9n divided by 9, 180 divided by 9. n is equal to 20. Then multiply the value of n to each term in the ratio. 3 times 20 equals 60, 4 times 20 equals 80, 5 times 20 equals 100. So, the measure of each angle in a triangle is 60 degrees, 80 degrees, and 100 degrees respectively. Before we proceed to our discussion, may I ask you this question? Have you experienced helping at home like painting the wall of your room or painting the window grills? How did you feel while doing such work? Let us now proceed to our lesson. Study the problem. Father hired 4 painters to paint their house in 12 days. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, he wants the painting job be finished in 6 days. How many painters should he hire? Let us consider this. Since the owner of the house wants the painting job be finished in 6 days, would he hire more painters or less painters? The problem shows an inverse relationship between two quantities in which the increase in one quantity causes a decrease in the other quantity and vice versa. This type of proportion is called inverse or indirect proportion. To solve an inverse proportion, follow these steps. The first step is understand. To understand the problem, we need to identify what is asked and identify the given. So in the problem that I presented, we are asked to find the number of painters needed to paint the house in 6 days. In the given, we have 4 painters can paint a house in 12 days, and the number of painters can paint the house in 6 days. Next, make a plan. Your plan includes identify the operations to be used, which is multiplication and division, then set up the proportion in fraction form or in column form. When setting up an inverse proportion in fraction form, the numerator of the first ratio must correspond to the denominator of the second ratio. The denominator of the first ratio must correspond to the numerator of the second ratio. Let us now set up the proportion or equation. In fraction form, consider the given 4 painters to 12 days, number of painters to 6 days. The order of the term should be original number of painters over the new number of painters equal to the new number of days over the original number of days. So the proportion is 4 over n equals 6 over 12. In column form, the order of the term should be original number of painters is to the new number of painters equal to the new number of days is to the original number of days. So the equation now is 4 is to n as 6 is to 12. Let us now solve the problem. In fraction form, 4 over n equals 6 over 12. Cross multiply 6 times n and 4 times 12. 6 times n equals 6n, 4 times 12 equals 48. Divide both sides by the numerical coefficient. 6n divided by 6 equals 48 divided by 6, n is equal to 8. In column form, 4 is to n as 6 is to 12. Get the product of the means and get the product of the extremes. 6 times n equals 6n, 4 times 12 equals 48. Divide both sides by the numerical coefficient. 6n divided by 6, 48 divided by 6, n is equal to 8. Therefore, there are 8 painters needed to paint the house in 6 days. The last step is to check and look back. Our equation 4 is to n as 6 is to 12. Substitute the value of n, which is equal to 8. So, our equation now is 4 is to 8 as 6 is to 12. Multiply the means and multiply the extremes. 6 times 8 and 4 times 12. Multiplying 6 times 8 equals 48, 4 times 12 equals 48. The product of the means is equal to the product of the extremes. Notice that in this problem, the number of days decreased, so the number of painters increased. Let us have another example. Susan donated loaves of bread to an orphanage which is enough to feed 45 orphans in 2 days. If there are 30 orphans to be fed, how many days will the same amount of bread last? Let us consider the given 45 orphans in 2 days, 30 orphans in blank days. To write the equation in fraction form, it should be original number of orphans over the new number of orphans equal to new number of days over the original number of days. So we have now 45 over 30 equals to n over 2. In column form, 45 is to 30 as n is to 2. Let us now solve the value of n in fraction form. 45 over 30 equals n over 2. Cross multiply 30 times n and 45 times 2. 30 times n equals 30n. 45 times 2 equals 90. Divide both sides by the numerical coefficient. 30n divided by 30, 90 divided by 30, n is equal to 3. In column form, 45 is to 30 as n is to 2. Get the product of the means and get the product of the extremes. 30 times n equals 30n. 45 times 2 equals 90. Divide both sides by the numerical coefficient. 30n divided by 30, 90 divided by 30, n is equal to 3. So the answer is 3 days. To check the answer, substitute the value of n, then use cross multiplication. N is equal to 3. So 45 over 30 equals n over 2 will become 45 over 30 equals 3 over 2. Cross multiply 45 times 2, then 30 times 3. The cross product is the same, equal to 90. In this problem, the number of orphans decreased, so the number of days increased proportionately. This is also an example of inverse or indirect proportion. I want you to reflect and answer the following questions. Have you been to an orphanage? Why is it that there are children in an orphanage? How can you help them? It's time to do your part. Get your math notebook and answer the following activities. You may check your answers after the discussion. The first activity is practice. Directions: set up the proportion for each item in fraction form and in column form. Go! The next activity is keep practicing. Directions: for each problem, set up the proportion and solve. Start! And the third activity is test yourself. Directions: solve each problem. Ready? Go! Can you tell us now what is an inverse proportion? How do we solve problems involving inverse proportion? A proportion is said to be inverse if the increase in one quantity causes the decrease in the other quantity and vice versa. To solve problems involving inverse proportion, set the proportion first either in column or fraction form. See to it that the order of the terms is accordance with the relationship between the two quantities. Let us have the last activity. Again, write your answer in your math notebook. Directions: choose the letter of the best answer. Number 1. 15 men can do a piece of work in 20 days. In how many days will 25 men finish the same work? What is the correct proportion to this problem? A. 15 is to 20 as 25 is to n. B. 15 is to n as 20 is to 25. C. 15 is to 25 as n is to 20. D. 15 is to n as 25 is to n. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is letter C. Number 2. 4 workers take 3 days to load a garden. How many days will it take 2 workers to finish the same job? A. 6 days. B. 5 days. C. 4 days. D. 2 days. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is letter A. Problem number 3. A tank of oil can be emptied in 16 minutes if one outlet valve is fully opened. How long will it take to empty the tank if 2 outlet valves of the same size are fully opened? A. 11 minutes. B. 10 minutes. C. 9 minutes. D. 8 minutes. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is letter D. Number 4. It takes Harry 20 minutes to ride his bicycle at 20 kilometers per hour from home to the grocery store. To shorten his travel time to 16 minutes for the same distance, how fast should he cycle? A. 27 kilometers per hour. B. 25 kilometers per hour. C. 20 kilometers per hour. D. 16 kilometers per hour. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B. Number 5. 12 painters can paint a building in 10 days. How many painters are needed to paint a building in 6 days? A. 20, B. 25, C. 30, D. 35. Write your answer now. Time is up. The correct answer is letter A. This ends our discussion. See you next meeting and stay safe.